There is a trough in waves, a low spot where horizon disappears and only sky and water are our company. And there we lose our way unless we rest, knowing the wave will bring us to its crest again. There we may drown if we let fear hold us in its grip and shake us side to side and leave us flailing, torn, disoriented. But if we rest there in the trough, in silence, being in the low part of the wave, keeping our energy and noticing the shape of things, the flow, then time alone will bring us to another place where we can see horizon, see land again, regain our sense of where we are and where we need to swim. The second reading comes from Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Rainmaker, You Could Be the Water. By the scent of water alone, the withered vine comes back to life, and thus, wherever the land is dry and hard, you could be the water. Or you could be the iron blade disking the earth open. Or you could be the acequia, the mother ditch carrying the water from river to the fields to grow the flowers for the farmers. Or you could be the honest engineer mapping the dams that must be taken down, and those dams which could remain to serve the venerable all instead of only the very few. You could be the battered vessel for carrying the water by hand, or you could be the one who stores the water. You could be the one who protects the water, or the one who blesses it, or the one who pours it. Or you could be the tired ground that receives it, or you could be the scorched seed that drinks it, or you could be the vine, green growing over land in all your wild audacity. My mom tells this story about when I was maybe 16 months old. She was giving me a bath and at the end went to take me out. It's logical. But evidently I was not done, and I screamed so long and hard that I passed out. My mother panicked because she thought that I died and called the doctor. I guess this is a thing littles do sometimes, and their lungs can't keep up with it, so they pass out. Since the first time she told me this story, I have said that it was a warning not to take me out of the water. In case you're wondering if I've always been this way, evidently yes. My father is a swimmer, although he doesn't really do it anymore. He was a lifeguard and swam competitively in high school. And you know it had to have been something that he loved because his school didn't have a swimming pool. And he had to go to another school when their team wasn't practicing to get his time in. So I remember being in and around water often. We would go to the shores of Lake Erie in the summer, and I went to swim lessons for years. We always had pool passes in the summer, and my grandparents even had a pond in their backyard that we would swim and canoe in. My grandfather taught my sister and I to fish as he had his own children before us, even though I was not really into it. It was one of those things that we did to spend time with Grandpa. But after my parents divorced and remarried, my dad lived maybe a half a mile from Lake Erie, and driving near it became a regular practice in our family, especially when there were storms. The joke was, we have to go see what the lake is doing. And the sound of rain has always been one that I loved, although this last week sort of put it to a test. I remember one CVS I worked in had a metallic roof, and the sound of rain was so loud in there. It was rhythmic and soothing and felt like being taken to another time. sacred, maybe, even in that deep seat of capitalism. Water has meaning for all of us. Our own bodies are made up of around 50 or 60% water. We need water to survive. We are also carried by the sounds and smells, sights and feelings of water. And of course, we use symbolism with water for lots of things. One of our hymns uses the phrase, drops of water turn a mill, singly none. And another that we all know well, where justice shall roll down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Water shapes so much of the experience of living in Florida, with people boating, kayaking or canoeing, swimming, lounging, fishing, touring. We go to restaurants on water's edge. We have homes overlooking some body of water. There are so many lakes and ponds in this area to appreciate the beauty of. And it's not always the lovely experiences, but also hurricanes and tropical storms, along with flooding that we sometimes have, which we are all too aware of at this time. I find at times like these, we need to be reminded of water's soothing power, as we've experienced so much of its destructive power lately. Water is a symbol of cleansing, of renewing or rebirth, of washing away, of letting go, of possibility. Being in water is where we might be rejuvenated, calmed, strengthened. It helps us with its soothing waves and sometimes gentle movements to dream. Where land and water meet, it is a place of instruction for us if we are willing to quiet ourselves and listen and watch. These areas are not only wildly rich in biodiversity and can teach us much about ecosystems, they also play a role in reducing damage from storms when untouched by human interference. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of human interference, reducing the amount of vegetation in coastal areas and claiming wetlands for residential, commercial, and industrial use, leaving us more vulnerable to the consequences of the climate crisis. Water is a powerful symbol and one that we UUs love so much that we celebrate it every year in many of our congregations during a water ceremony and in-gathering service. The service is meant to mark the beginning of the church program year when members and friends have returned from time away or their summer schedules refreshed. It was following a service created for the Women and Religion Continental Convocation of Unitarian Universalists, held in 1980, that the water ceremony was brought to our congregations throughout Unitarian Universalism. Carolyn McDade of Spirit of Life fame and Lucille Shuck Longview created the service and a new ritual that, as they say, spoke to our connectedness to one another, to the totality of life, and to our place on this planet. They asked some of the attendees to bring water with them from the places they called home and shared the significance of those waters as they poured them into a communal bowl. This was the beginning of a ritual many of us have come to look forward to each year. It is a reminder that we are all connected, that all waters lead to the same source and then go around the whole world again and again throughout time. This may feel especially connecting, not only regarding our place among the life and lives on this planet, but also thinking about our religious traditions that remind us we come from one love and are eventually returned to it. This year, we have waters that we will pour that symbolize what is happening in our lives. On this table, there are mason jars with water in them. Each jar represents a different way that we might be experiencing life now or just have felt over the last year. One has salt in it for the droughts in our lives, the sorrows and sadnesses, For times of scarcity or feeling lost, the times when life might feel like it's taking more from us than giving to us. One has lemon in it for the currents in our lives, the zest of sweetness and sour, for change and travel and movement and new adventures. One has honey in it for the lapping of waves, the sweetness of life, or the soothing of being held and carried, for times when we are filled with gratitude and community and feel sustained. The last one has parsley in it for the storms of our lives, the hardships and challenges, such as times of addiction, mental illness, heartbreaks, or losses. There's also an empty jar this year meant to represent those who do not have access to water, including those in Gaza and Asheville and many other places. So I invite you to come up and pour just a bit from one of these jars into the bowl, the one that feels most resonant for you. And of course, as always, these are guidelines, so choose whatever you want. When you are done, you may return to your seat.
For all the ways these waters represent the fullness of our lives, the ways that the people here may be experiencing any one of these things or something yet unnamed, we give thanks for this congregation where all are held among us. A blessing for the water, a spiritual practice by Starhawk. Praise and gratitude to the sacred waters of the world, to the oceans, the mother of life, the womb of plant life that freshens our air with oxygen, the brew that is stirred by sunlight and the moon's gravity into the great currents and tides that move across the earth, circulating the means of life, bringing warmth to the frozen Arctic and cool, fresh winds to the tropics. We give thanks for the blessed clouds and the rain that brings the gift of life to the land, that eases the thirst of roots, that grows the trees that sustain life even in the dry desert. We give thanks for the springs that bring life-giving water up from the ground, for the small streams and creeks, for the mighty rivers. We praise the beauty of the water, the sparkle of the sunlight on a blue lake, the shimmer of moonlight on the ocean's waves, the white spray of the waterfall. We take delight in the sweet singing of the dancing stream and the roar of the river in the flood. We ask help to know within ourselves all the powers of water, to wear down and to build up, to ebb and to flow, to nurture and to destroy, to merge and to separate. We know that water has great powers of healing and cleansing, and we also know that water is vulnerable to contamination and pollution. We ask help in our work as healers, in our efforts to ensure that the waters of the world run clean and run free, that all the earth's children have the water they need to sustain abundance of life. Blessed be the water.